So now let's turn to our final speaker, Stephen Dhondt. Stephen is a senior researcher at TNO and visiting professor at KU Leuven in Belgium. And his main focus is on the impacts of newest technologies on organizational and work practices. He coordinated several Horizon 2020 projects and now is leading the consortium of Bridges 5.0. So, Stephen, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Marina. I'm just checking here. I'm going the wrong way, I think. That's... I'm not sure where I am. Yeah, okay, I got it.
That's good.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you for having me at COP28, and I'm very pleased and I'm very grateful to be able to present the Bridges 5.0 project that we are connected to. And we are focusing with this project on one of the main actors in this discussion about sustainability in the future. And this main actor is the company level, the company and management and its workforce. If we want to change the future, that's the level that needs to change. We can do a lot of with other actors, but it's the companies that need to provide a new kind of environment. They need to be submerged with this idea of sustainability, and they need to take the actions to do that. And it's a lot, and we've heard a lot of discussion on technology, but in the end, it's also about the kind of skills that the workforce will need within this transition that we're going to be looking at in the future. And the Bridges project is mainly focused on to develop these workforce skills for Industry 5.0. So let's see if I can do that right. Yeah, and we the main idea is that if we're looking at the company level, we need to change the mindset, we need to change the behavior, and we need to change the structures in these companies. Is it impossible to do? Well, we see examples of companies that are already Industry 5.0. They are either net zero or they're even net negative. So there are examples, and the industry is capable of helping this world. And we want to find these examples, and we want to build with them solutions for the future. But we know that innovation within companies is too low. We need to improve innovation rates. We've seen a lot of innovations, technologies here, but if you look in the general picture, then you see that innovation levels are too low. And the second point is that the use of technology, even if we're talking about robots and all those kind of things, is just too low. So there is a problem with innovation rates and with technologies. And the main driver to improve that is to work on these workforce skills. So it's not so much about basic skills, basic digital skills. It's about bringing these high-level skills towards workers and building on those skills that are there. I think that Chris Ivory has pointed out clearly in his presentation that you need to trust the worker to do that. In our project, in the Bridges project, we're going to be working on training interventions that already exist, but that need to have this new dimension of Industry 5.0. And we're looking particularly towards two interventions. The one is called the training factory, and the other one is the learning factory. So let me go forward. Well, the training factory is in fact an intervention that already exists, in which there's a focus on problems within companies. So companies have an issue, either with technology, trying to get to work, trying to understand what the customer wants, trying to deal with issues, getting the processes in order. And if you're looking at that, you can develop workforce skills to help solve these issues. And it's a collaboration between management and between employees and trying to work forward on those topics. There's also a second intervention that we're looking at this project. It's called the learning factory, which might be in connection to companies, but is mainly focused on the collaboration between the schooling system and what is happening in the company. And there the starting point is not so much a problem that a company wants to solve, but technologies that exist, but that are not taken up within the other companies. So we're trying to work with schools, with vet education, with stakeholders to improve the take-up and the use of these technologies. And for both interventions, the teaching factory and the learning factory, we want to implement the ideas of human centricity, sustainability, and resilience. How do we do that within these training interventions? And we're doing that with 5 major companies in Europe. We're doing that with 12 learning networks all over Europe. So we have a lot of work to do over the coming years. And we want to inform companies, we want to inform decision makers, policy makers on what is happening. So we're collecting a lot of data. We're doing that, for example, together with CEDEFOP, the European Agency of Vocational Education and Information in Europe. So we're using big data on all vacancies in Europe, not so much to focus on the vacancies, but to focus on the information about the company practices that exist. So we want to develop this kind of information using the latest development in large language models, trying to understand what kind of behavior we can see at the company level. But we want to also connect that to other kinds of sources and inform those that are working on what is happening. Because what we know is that there is a lot of technology, there is a lot of innovation, so insufficient, as I've said, but it's also because companies are not investing into what we would say the learning organization. So companies need to be informed on how they can do that and how we can help them achieve that. A lot of information of us is available on the Bridges 5.0 website. It's a source which can help policymakers, which can help the decision makers, stakeholders in Europe. We are collaborating together with one of the major trade unions in Europe, Industriol, with the Employers Association, CMET, and we're hoping with this stakeholder approach to be able to drive the changes that are needed for Europe.
Now, I would like to open the floor to the audience. And for that, we will use, as I mentioned at the beginning, the Slido and let me check the Slido. In that case, I take out my glasses. Allora, I read the first question, which is, how can the industry receive support in developing solutions aligned with sustainability principle? So who is volunteer to pick up? It can be even 2 colleagues to pick up the first question. Thank you, Stephen.
Yes. Well, if it starts at the industry level, as I've pointed out, it's about trying to find support in the educational system and trying to find support in new ways of thinking that are needed for this industrial change. So we hope from our project, from the British project, that having an understanding of these existing interventions, but then adapted to Industry 5.0, that can help them to create this alignment that is needed in the future.
Thank you. Anybody would like to add? Otherwise, I go to the second question, and I read it. How will the community of practice contribute to support companies in adapting to the changing ecosystem and meeting the requirements of Industry 5.0? Now I have 2 candidates. Very good. Maybe you can start, Livio, and you can complement.
Thanks. So the community of practice is one of the initiatives that I mentioned earlier. So it's sort of policy-driven one. The earlier question was much more on industry itself, but also helping industry. On this, it is the community of practice is part of this offer to industry to help share best practices, to get the leaders in this transition to help the others who are interested to make it. So it is about sharing and exchanging best practices, but also drafting common guidelines, also pulling resources, also making jointly the case for consumers, and be it business to business or business to consumer type of industry players, to really let them be responding to demands of their customers, to demands of citizens at large. It's really, in this sense, draws back to what I mentioned in the beginning, that it's an initiative that aims to give voice and action, a sort of a role, an active role to industry in this transition, so that it's not just driven by policy and by civil society, but by industry itself. And I think that is the sort of support that the public sector can afford industry, but at the end of the day, and this is also the message that we're trying to make, it's in the industry's self-interest to do this. It's in the industry's self-interest to work with their workers, so that they stay attractive and that they stay competitive, because at the end of the day, it is a sort of market economy dynamic that we're trying to help them with. But I think Chris wanted to...
Well, I guess it also links to the second question after this, which is about education. You know, we need to really think about how we educate our managers, and we are certainly not in our MBA programs, and I can tell you this for a fact, not educating them in this kind of sense that we need to move into a new mindset, new era. And we're not achieving that. I think it was, again, I'm tipping into the next question now, which was about business education. I think Martin Parker said, I don't know if you're aware of him, professor in the UK, said we should bulldoze all of our business schools and start again.
Exactly.
Right.
Thank you very much. So the follow-up question was, do you think the current business education is no longer sufficient for this purpose? And do you need to reconsider how to train on next generation of managers, the next generation of managers? So anything?
I can
Thank you, Gaetano. Maybe you can complete.
I think that the short answer would be yes, of course, is no longer sufficient for its purpose. But then the problem is what we have to do and how we can manage this. And the problem is that at the end, let's say, a good manager is the one that is capable to understand, let's say, what will be the next future. Because if we think to, let's say, to train our managers with what we see today, maybe tomorrow it's already too late. So I think that at the end we have to manage to train our managers to understand the real future, the real next needs of the let's say of our society. And I think that this will be the difference between a good manager and bad manager.
Thank you, Gaetano. Very good. Oh yeah, please, Nikki.
Just one on top of that, it is important also in the training aspect to consider that we need to integrate the twin transition parameters, so that the next generation of managers have already integrated in the skill set what is needed for the digital and the green transition, and also to help them have access to the pan-European innovations that are already available and how they can work to integrate them in their industry and in their processes.
Very good point, Nikki. Thank you. You wanted to...
Yeah, no, I think training is important, and the managerial mindset is important, and practices, you know, it is, as you pointed out, Stephen, there's the practices that need to change. But I think education is possibly too weak a lever for that. I think, you know, there's no point well-trained managers going into an industrial context where they're still playing the same old game, as it were. And government has levers at its disposal, you know, taxation changes. At the minute, we tax labour very highly and capital very low. So of course that encourages automation, for example. So I think we need to think about things like that in the regulatory environment. If we ignore these things in this discussion about 5.0, then I don't think we're gonna get there.
So from what you are saying, it must be a 360 degrees approach. All the angles should be tackled to have a success results, from education to experience.
You know, if I may just to add on this, again, drawing back to the presentation I made, one of these reports that I pointed out, drawn up by the ESIR group of advisors, pointed exactly to these levers. So we have education, we have taxation, but we also have financial flows. So we're trying to, with initiatives like the taxonomy, you know, to drive the wider ecosystem in which our European industry operates to make this transition. be it, as I said, financial flows or skills or education or taxation, to really help that. So I think the question was very right in the sense of pointing to one aspect, but the conversation and the transformation, I said not revolution, but I think it sort of starts to add up to a revolution, is much broader than that.
Now, there are still 2 questions. I'm not sure we have time. I can pick it up one. I read, in your opinion, what are the key challenges in the industrial transformation in Europe? If you can say really one sentence, because we have to conclude it.
Well, if I can start, sorry, Marina.
Yes, of course.
So one of the main challenges is that we have to understand how we can get this collaboration together. Comparing Belgium and the Netherlands, the 2 countries where I work, productivity in Belgium is added value per worker is about 25% higher in Belgium than compared to the Netherlands. But trade unions are extremely strong in Belgium. They're quite weak in the Netherlands. So it's not the fact that you have strong trade unions that it's going to be an impediment for change. You have to work with your workers. It has to become human-centric if we want to make this change work.
I think everybody agreed with your last sentence. It has to become human-centric. So I'm sorry we can't continue with the question and answer simply because we have to respect the timetable. And I would take the opportunity of the last minute to say a few words of conclusion. First of all, warmly thank the audience for being with us all this hour. And of course, to all of you speakers, very interesting presentation, and I learned a lot from you. You really shared fascinating insight into the industrial landscape, emphasizing that effective facilitation of digital and green transition demands a shift towards new broader perspective and new models. I think that's a conclusion that we can all share.